Our fellow teacher, Marianne Killick, is with us today to talk about blood sugar, neurodivergence, and perimenopause. Marianne is an author, women's health coach, and acupuncturist. She works with women at risk of diabetes, especially neurodivergent women, to balance their hormones through learning to regulate their blood sugar and nervous system, especially as they head into perimenopause. Welcome to Avaya, Marianne.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. So I'm curious, what is the connection between blood sugar regulation and perimenopause?
Glad you asked. It's a really, really big connection. So there's a huge link between our hormones and our metabolic system. So our metabolic system is the one that processes energy in our body, so essentially processes sugar. And it's intimately connected with our hormonal system. And so, we have several kind of dances going on between our bodies. So you've got, the ovarian hypothalamus pituitary axis going on. So this chat going on between your ovaries and these different parts of your brain to do with the hormone communication that has to happen through a cycle. And then you've got the, adrenal ovarian axis as well. So it's connected to kind of all your stress hormones and your sex hormones. And all of that interlinks with how your body processes blood sugar. And in a perfect world, what happens is, we eat food and it slowly releases into sugar into our body that our body can use and transform into the energy we require in our cells. And then this energy goes in nice and steady, and it helps support all the hormonal functions of the body. So it's a nice, steady flow. What happens for many of us is that, we go too long between food, or then we eat something that's either highly processed or refined or very sugary, and we spike our blood sugar all the way up. And what this does is then it crashes our blood sugar. And so to deal with that spike in blood sugar, we release lots of insulin. And the more insulin we release, the more it interferes with our sex hormones. And so, that's a very simplified version of what goes on. But essentially what this means is it kind of disrupts that smooth flow, that smooth dance between our brain and our ovaries and what needs to happen. And various studies are now showing that this directly impacts on our perimenopausal symptoms. So what they found is that where women have higher vasomotor symptoms, so we're talking, hot flushes, night sweats, that kind of perimenopausal symptoms, they tend to also have higher markers of metabolic disorder. So it's, this is something that really, as women, we need to be almost treating as like an early warning system in our bodies. If we're experiencing those kind of symptoms to do with the perimenopause, it really is a flag for us to approach our doctors and say, hey, could you check out, how, where I'm at with insulin resistance, where I'm at with glucose regulation, and, all my cardiometabolic markers of health, because they are intimately linked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so interesting. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on hormone replacement therapy as it relates to this stage of life. Do you think that HRT is the main solution, a good solution to the fluctuations in our hormones and this blood sugar issue?
It can help, but it's not the full solution. And I think this is where, we've come out of this phase of many people being very anti-HRT because of fears that have now been disproven. And now we seem to be going fully the other way into kind of HRT is the magic solution to perimenopause. It's a definite lifesaver for some women. It's a definite help for many women, but it is not the only solution to this stage in our lives. There has to come with it a real awareness of our own role in our healthcare at this point. And, if we take the HRT, it doesn't take away the need for us to become aware of these other changes that are going on within our body at this time. As we lower our estrogen levels, our ability to grow muscle, as we've probably already known, I'm sure many of your other speakers have covered, our ability to grow muscle reduces. Now, what this directly does is muscle burns glucose. And I think something like 75% of our glucose is used in our muscles. So obviously the less our muscle mass, the less we use our glucose. Therefore, the higher the blood sugar in our system, therefore, the more insulin we pump out, therefore, the more weight gain we get around our belly, but therefore also the worse our perimenopause symptoms in terms of, hot flushes and night sweats. And what this means is that HRT is kind of, it really should be the cherry on the cake of what we do in our own lifestyles. And what I'm saying really is any woman 35 onwards, what we need to be educating ourselves on is building and maintaining muscle. It's eating to regulate blood glucose, but also looking at all those other things that feed into good glucose regulation. And as women, as we hit midlife, as we hit towards our 40s and into our 40s, one of the big things that affects women and their ability to regulate their glucose is stress. And it's massive. It's absolutely massive. We're at the point where we're probably still raising children. We might be starting to care for elderly parents. We're dealing with career changes, all these things coming together that increase our the load that we're dealing with each day. And this directly impacts on our ability to metabolize glucose. And therefore, it disrupts our hormones even more. So HRT isn't going to stop all of that. It's not going to stop that load and all that stress level, which still is going to disrupt our glucose metabolism at that point, even if you're taking the HRT. Mm-hmm. So HRT is a great thing for many women, but it's not enough. It's not enough. We need to have that education around building muscle, about following the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, and really, really looking at reducing our stress.
And can you talk a little bit deeper about those three things? So, right, obviously the exercise or whatever we need to do to maintain muscle or build muscle, the Mediterranean diet, as well as stress reduction techniques.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of building muscle, we need to, depends who you listen to on this. The different experts differ in the amount of exercise we need to do. But I think everybody agrees that we need to lift heavy stuff. We need to be doing heavy things, and it doesn't have to be for hours and hours per week. It on average, 20-minute session 3 times a week, where we focus on different parts of our body and using weights that challenge us to help build that muscle mass. And we're not going to suddenly turn into looking like bulky bodybuilders. That's not what happens at all. But that strength, that increase in muscle, boosts our mood for a start. So it really helps us cope with the stress we've just been talking about. So that, as well as helping our glucose metabolism in that instance, it boosts our mood, it boosts our energy levels, which can be flagging at this age too. But it also helps with our cognitive function moving forward, because as we know, there's a huge prevalence for dementia, Alzheimer's conditions in women. It's twice as prevalent in women as it is in men. And there are links between the stronger your muscle mass, your grip strength, the less the decrease in cognitive function that you get as you get older. So we're talking about not just protecting ourselves through perimenopause, but actually really protecting ourselves for the further stages of life. And then alongside that protection of muscle that we can do, the Mediterranean diet, and this isn't suddenly, you have to give up all those bits of treats and things that you like. It's really, what can you bring in? And this is the approach I use with the women I work with. It's not just cutting stuff out, because that's just miserable. It's how can we bring things into our diet? So it's bringing in variation, adding in that extra portion of green vegetables, throwing in the cup of lentils into your stew and your soup as you're preparing it, bringing those pulses into your diet. All of those things help with hormone regulation, with blood sugar balance. And then in terms of stress reduction, one of the biggest things we can do is learn to say no. There's so many of us are guilty of being people pleasers and prioritizing everybody except ourselves. And then, we wonder why we're frazzled and there is no time to go to the gym or to go to our yoga class. So learning how to say no and have good boundaries is essential to stress regulation. And ditching the guilt about taking time for ourselves as women, it's huge. People, I'm being so selfish. I'm signing up to that one yoga class a week. It's like, is that all you're giving yourself? You need to be giving yourself an hour or two each day, ideally. And and as I say, looking at your work schedule, looking at your household schedule, is everybody in the house pulling their weight? And having real conversations around that. And then I suppose the last one really, which really sort of leads into the other aspects of the topics we're talking about here, is learning to live as your authentic self. And what do I mean by that? I think many women hit this point in their lives around perimenopause, and they start questioning their values, and they start questioning their relationships and their marriage and who they are. And what you find is, I think perimenopause tends to reveal truth to women, because we lose our nice girl sense of, all that estrogen, that people-pleasing estrogen that makes us just want to please everybody. As that declines, we become a bit more, stuff this, I'm not living this way, and we start to get more clarity about what we want out of life. And for some women, and this links more into the topic of neurodivergence, the time as they hit perimenopause and the hormonal fluctuations actually exposes traits in themselves that they hadn't particularly spotted, which can then also reveal to them that they've maybe been living their life as an undiagnosed neurodivergent woman, which can be massive in terms of overwhelming, but massively liberating at the same time for many women. And, this can have a huge impact.
And okay, so that was my next question.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.